Hello everybody and welcome to SMAM Listens, a channel where we listen to, talk about and review music. Thank you for watching this video, thank you for watching my last video. If you haven't already, check my channel. It's a reaction to the pretty brilliant Sweet Trip album, How Like a Bliss Out Volume 11, full title. It was a really much stronger album than I expected it to be, that's for sure. And that was video 2 in this little 5-video series here of reacting to your suggestions. This here is video number 3. So we're smack bang in the middle of this little mini-series here where I go through old comments from especially some of my older videos, look at some of the albums that have been most commonly requested for me to react to, and then I react to them right here and now. And today's going to be a treat because I sort of know what's coming because I've listened to this band before. I've listened to one of their albums on this channel, in fact. I loved it. Loved this album. Absolutely phenomenal. The album that I listened to was Panopticon by ISIS, and the album I'm going to be listening to today, by popular request, is the album Oceanic. So, ISIS, phenomenal sludge metal band, elements of doom metal in there, lots of sort of post-rock influences too, plenty of reverb and shoegazy production that backs up these heavy soul-crushing songs, and all of that came through in spades on Panopticon. I loved Panopticon. That was a really fantastic album. There were no major weak spots on it. The production was phenomenal. Drums and guitar work, all the performances, top notch. I really enjoyed it, and I think I'd call that one of my favourite, maybe my actually second favourite metal album of all time. First is Frizzle Fire by Primus, fun fact. If you can even call that metal, I think that's almost borderline like funk rock. But anyway, yeah, so I really loved Panopticon, and a lot of people in the comments said, if you liked Panopticon, check out Oceanic. Plenty more great riffs and fantastic production moments and incredible drums. And I mean, it's not exactly me suffering having to react to this. So getting into this album, I think one of the interesting things will be, is it any different from Panopticon stylistically? Because like Panopticon it was very homogenous front to back. Like all of the songs followed the same sort of mold, but I loved that mold so much that it didn't really bother me that a lot of the tracks were homogenous. And plus, although they were homogenous in style, the riffs were very unique on the different tracks. The way they built up or built down in some cases was really fascinating and changed up between the tracks. But what I'm interested to see is if there's any stylistic change at all between Panopticon and Oceanic. Now, I believe Oceanic is the album that predates Panopticon, correct? And in that case, I almost wonder if we're going to get like a rawer style, something a bit less, maybe like huge and world-ending, and quite polished in its own way, like Panopticon was. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, something that goes closer to, conventional faster metal, or maybe some post-hardcore influences. That's just how a lot of these metal bands tend to, the earlier you go in the career, the rawer they get. So I'd be interested to see if that's the case with them. So for some bizarre reason, most ISIS albums aren't on Tidal, which is the normal platform I use to do this. So I have my phone plugged in here manually like a peasant, like a plebeian. But we'll go through it for this album. So yeah, Oceanic, hour 3 long, which I think is a little bit longer than Panopticon. I think Panopticon's in the 50-something minute range. I haven't really paid attention to that, but I think it's a little bit longer than Panopticon. 9 tracks, so more tracks than Panopticon, so makes me think that we'll probably get a couple shorter tracks in the mix. I can't really see the track lengths on Apple Music, so it's going to be a complete surprise as we go. I've heard nothing on this album. I've absolutely no experience with this album, just to get that out of the way, but I can't wait to familiarise myself with it for the first time. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is The Beginning and the End is the name of the first track. Who knows how long it is. I just want them to blow me away. Honestly, if they do the same tricks and pull the same punches that Panopticon does, it's still going to be an amazing album. Anything that it does beyond that is just a bonus. So let's get into it. This is track 1. It's the beginning and the end. I'm going to have to probably adjust my volume because I'm not used to working out the volume on Apple Music. But let's do this. This is track 1. Boom. Turn this off a bit. See how that goes. Oh, okay, let's restart that. Okay. There you go. Oh. Whoa. it's very groovy, much groovier than I expected. Less atmospheric. Oh, I like that riff. I like how it progresses. Good harmonic work there. Sounds like his snare's turned off. Oh. Ah! Oh yeah, I love the chord, I love this riff. And the chord changes are phenomenal. Oh, his vocals are more forward in the mix too compared to the Foxtrot. Wow, breakdown, okay. Whoa, what a start. Okay. Fantastic start. I love how that sort of chugging remains through that, just ominous. Na na na. Oh no, there's like a bar of 5/4 back there. I like that melodic bass line too, the na 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 na. I love that, love that. Interesting time signature changes too. Sounds like some choir or something, or like synth choir. Don't think it needs the vocals though. I think it could have done well for itself instrumentally, but small thing. Okay, we're building. Repetition, just chugging along, churning along. Yeah, interesting snare tone. It's like the snare's turned on. Whoa, did not expect that. Oh, yes. Oh my god, double time, wow. You've got that faint. Feeling the lot of faint guitar line in the background. I love it. I can be the ISIS vocalist. More tension. It didn't resolve itself there, so there's something happening. We're building up to a big drop like a... Oh, tension. Okay. Interesting choice, harmonically. Yeah, very uneasy end here. It's interesting what they're doing from a chord movement perspective. Yeah, and then that goes into the next track. I won't preempt that. Normally my title platform, it ends after each track, so it's perfect for this. But with some time, I'm gonna have to pause it before the transitions. Yeah, interesting what it did at the end there. Makes sense now what it did at the end there though, because it was leading into the next track. It didn't, for the last minute or so, it didn't resolve itself down to the 1. It stayed, I think, on the 4 or the 5, sort of some weird harmonic nether regions, and didn't quite resolve itself. So I knew something was coming, because that's a really interesting harmonic trick they played there, to make you feel like there was some big, just drop of your tension coming in. It makes sense now that it was going to the next track, which is the big drop of tension. Anyway, music nerd, bye. That was phenomenal track. I mean, I actually think I was pretty spot on with a lot of my, ramble before the track started. I think I was actually right. I mean, at the risk of, generalizing what this whole album's going to do based on one track, I think I more or less got right what this album would sound like compared to Panopticon if it was going to do something differently. This album sounds, from one track, it sounds more melodic, more sort of songy, less focus on atmosphere and more focus on changes, interesting things from the harmonic perspective, melodies, that sort of thing. And also changing song structures, like different sort of motifs that pop up in different places then disappear in others. Whereas a lot of the Panopticon songs were generally this quite linear, either slow build or they just chugged along at a single dynamic for a majority of the length of the song. These tracks don't have the same like post-rock, slow adding of layers and getting louder and louder and more in your face. It was more the move between different not disparate sections, but a move between different unique sections that nevertheless fit together like a huge puzzle, which is more in line with, again, as I said, more conventional metal genres, and also post-hardcore, sort of post-punk, punk, those sort of genres. So yeah, that track was more tight and through composed, I'd say, from the songwriting point of view. It's different from Oceanic. It's different from Panopticon. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's different. But in this case, I love it because it's showing a side of Isis that I haven't seen so far. Because, yeah, as I said, the bass line on that was really melodic the whole way through. Really interesting melodic functioning, and actually drove the track forward from that point of view for the majority of it, which I really liked. And, you didn't really have much in the way of melodies on Panopticon. It was all about layers and sounds and atmosphere, but here I'm actually picking like melodies out of the mix, which I really like. I really like that. I think it's a change that perhaps I didn't expect them to do, but I think that they pull it off well nonetheless. Even the vocals sounded a bit less sort of screechy like that than they do on Panopticon, and I don't use screechy derogatory, or I don't use screechy in a derogatory sense. I just mean that, objectively they're like sort of thing on Panopticon, and there's a bit of that here, but less so. Like you can make out the tone, or the note that the singer's singing on this, which you cannot do on Panopticon. So that's really interesting. I like that change a lot. Guitars were fantastic, as they are on Panopticon. I mean, of course you had those heavy layers in parts, but there were some cleaner upper register little melodies that soared around in places, which I really liked. Yeah, I liked pretty much everything in that track. I really liked the drums too. The drums had a real sort of groovy swagger to them that a lot of the Panopticon tracks don't have. I think if you can call Panopticon many things, but like groovy and funky is not one of them. But the drums gave that sort of a swagger and like a push and pull, which I really liked, really appreciated, and did not see coming. I mean, that had more sort of energy and pulse than pretty much any other Panopticon track. So, I mean, there's literally nothing I could complain about there. Short of having a even more perfect, chord sequence or little melodies popping up, I don't think for an Isis track you can get any better than that. The beginning and the end, really, really phenomenal song. Fantastic way of starting off the album too. And I really hope that this is a predictor of things to come on this album, because it's covering new territory, and I really love it for that. So let's move on to track 2 and hope that it carries on in the same sort of light. This is called The Other. The previous track led into track 2, so I caught a glimpse of like the first second or something. It starts from the outset quite heavy, which will be interesting. Looking forward to that. I don't know how long it is. Let's get into it. This is track 2, The Other. Boom. Oh, maybe not that heavy, okay. The first second sounded heavy. I thought we were going to get like a So Did We, like, slam, but apparently not. Yeah, the bass is much more prominent. Much more prominent on this album. A bit more slow and sludgy though, compared to track 1. Much more, sort of like post-rock, Panopticon style. He's a phenomenal bassist. He really knows how to just underpin the tracks nicely. You don't see him nearly enough on Panopticon, because that's a guitar showcase, that album. It's an interesting, push-pull. And we're building. Because again, a very tense series of notes there. Oh, the bass. My God, this bassist. Pouring out. Ah, there we go. Yeah, vocals much, more in your face than an octagon. Drummer using the bell a lot in these tracks, which is not something you hear in metal very often. Oh, that's a tense chord. That is dissonant as hell. Much more unnerving than the first track was. Okay, alright, we're going places. Oh. Almost like some gent influence on this or something. That chugging is not something you hear on many other ISIS songs that I've heard so far. This one's definitely a grower. It's not as, immediately accessible to me because it's not as melodic. Polyrhythms in this track, polyrhythms in this track, polyrhythms in this track. Ba-da, 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 Oh, what is that? 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's like a sort of 6/4 feel with a polyrhythm over it. kind of goes in the next track again. Okay, so that was called, what was it called, The Other? I didn't love that as much on first listen, but I think that's probably due to the fact that, like, make no mistake, that track was not as easily and immediately accessible as the beginning and the end was. Because that one I felt, the first track had a bit more melody to it. It had a bit more, instant groove to it that was, like, accessible to me from the get-go. This lent more towards, like, its predecessors rather, metal-wise. It was a bit more sharp. It was a bit more precise. It was less melodic, much more sort of atonal chugging and sort of atonal noises. Much more vocal-driven, too. That felt like more sort of metal than post. Like, on the post-metal spectrum, that wasn't nearly as close to, like, the post-metal genres, atmospheric sludge, those sort of things. That was closer to, like, a slower sort of, like, maybe some earlier doom metal, and then going back to, like, early heavy metal, etc., etc. So, I think because I don't like those genres as much as I do, post-rock, post-metal, sludge metal, that sort of thing, I'm not going to appreciate that one as much until I listen to it more, I think is the caveat you have to add there. But it was fine. Like, there was nothing really wrong with it. I mean, there was nothing, absolutely genius going on from a songwriting perspective. Like, there were no real wow moments in that track. It was just a good slice of sludgy metal. It was very vocal driven. Didn't love the vocals on it. I mean, I don't really know what they added to that track in particular. But, they popped up everywhere. Like, they were on a lot of the song there. So, that was neither here nor there. Very polyrhythm driven. So, that chugging mana, mana, dana went through a lot of, particularly the second half of the track, like a lot of it. But, the first track did that, I think, better too. But, it's interesting to hear them experiment with polyrhythms and stuff more on this album in general, especially compared to the very linear and simple style of Panopticon. I think here on the last track and this track, you're hearing a lot more sort of complexities from a songwriting perspective. Like, you're hearing more complex chord changes, more sort of overtly dissonant moments from that point of view. And as I said, more sort of disparate sections that do come together as a whole, but that nevertheless have their own identity. So I'd say those are the biggest differences from Panopticon so far. However, I just feel the beginning and the end did a lot of what that did, but better. And I feel like that strayed, for my liking, a bit too close to, other bands. And if I want to listen to other bands, I'd listen to other bands, But, I mean, that sounds really harsh, but, that's more like ISIS's predecessors in doom metal and heavy metal. So, I mean, that wasn't phenomenal. It was fine. It does sort of dull the shine a little bit, I think, of the first track, though. And, I mean, of course, that being said, that could grow on me dramatically. Like, once I wrap my head around some of the more dissonant and less catchy moments, that could grow on me, like, really, really dramatically. So, we'll see what happens, but for now, that didn't wow me as much, I think, as the beginning and the end did. Okay, lights on, and ready to keep powering through. So, we're moving on to track 3, which is called... Oh, Jesus. Almost started another song. We're moving on to track 3, which is called False Light. Hopefully it's better than the other. So, hopefully it's closer to sort of the beginning and the end vibes rather than the other vibes. Or, I haven't heard much of the Panopticon style yet. So, it could err more towards that sort of thing. I don't know. We'll see. This is track 3, False Light. Let's go. Okay. Oh, heavy. heavy and cool. I like this. Four, four, five, four. How long is this? Is that 8 minutes? Liking this. I like the I like the riff. Bass is less in the forefront compared to the previous track. Oh, polyrhythms. They love their polyrhythms on this album. Well, chord change, alright. Very tense. Yeah, we resolved it. Back into mellow. Okay, don't mind that chord sequence. Like this bit, it's cool. More of a pulse. I like this track so far. It's a marked improvement on the previous track, even though it's vaguely similar in style. Okay, I thought it was going to build to a big, like, explosion, but apparently not. Yeah, I like the little melodic guitar lines and bass lines in the background. Ah! Should have seen that one coming. Fuzz effect on the guitar bass, whatever that is, the bass. Cool. Simple but effective that. There we go. Builds into the next track again. Which will be interesting to see how that progresses. Yeah, much better than the previous track. What was it called? The previous track. Much better than the other. False light, heavy, like world destroying, absolutely huge. Had a still sort of quite a vocal focus. A lot of sort of songy elements to it that a lot of Panopticon tracks don't have. But I still loved that. I really, maybe not loved, but I really liked that. And it did a lot of the things that the other did, but just much better on pretty much every count. So on that one, they kept the chord movement and the melodies really simple, Spartan, but effective, I think. I mean, all you need, in my opinion, is just a simple minor key melody or a simple, like, 2-chord sequence. And that can tide you over for a whole track while other things happen underneath. I mean, you know me, I'm a sucker for simplicity. Give me, like, 1 or 2 chords, a good melody, and just ride it out the whole way, and I'm set. And, that's what that track did. It kept things really simple from like a songwriting perspective, and I think it was better for that because it allowed you to just go away with it, like be crushed by the heavy guitars, the sort of fuzz bass which popped up at one point, which I really liked. I think that was an interesting inclusion which I hadn't I haven't heard on any other ISIS song that I've heard so far. So that was a really neat thing. It had a real viscous oozing sound to it that I think was pretty fantastic. What else? The drums were a bit more nondescript on that, but they were still good. The drummer in ISIS just knows how to keep things simple and effective on pretty much every track. He or she, I think I've seen videos of him live, he never overplays. He never sort of goes outside his little circle. He just provides the perfect foundation that the track needs. Doesn't like use too many fills or make things needlessly complex, just keeps it simple, Spartan, effective. I really respect that in a drummer. Yeah, well produced. Guitar layers were totally in your face. So were the vocals too, but I didn't find the vocals as repetitive or needless as they were on the other. I think they had their own sort of niche, especially in the choruses on that. And moreover, I think they showed up less than they did on the other, which is a good feature. So it just sort of lets the instrumental sing. So yeah, ticks all around. I mean, it wasn't, again, particularly catchy, or I'd say necessarily really unique from a doom metal or a stoner metal perspective. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, I think that was just a really decent, nice, chunky, like 8-minute slice of ISIS music. I think it was fantastic for that, and I don't think it needed to do any more than that. I mean, was it like as mind-blowing as hell, the beginning and the end, or even a song like In Fiction or So Did We Know. But, it doesn't need to be, especially this early in the album. I'm totally content with what we got there, which was just chunky, well-written, simple, effective, if not mind-blowing. But still a song that I think I'll definitely come back to outside of the full album context. We've had 3 tracks of varying successes so far, so I hope that from here on, things get a little bit more consistent on this in the grand scheme of the album. It's definitely different, as I've said a million times so far. It's definitely different from Panopticon. Much more tight from a songwriting perspective, less about the slow linear building of layers, and more about different sections and different melodies and things. And I mean, you can make the argument that that's not ideal because ISIS aren't playing into their strengths, and one of their biggest strengths is definitely like sort of the post-metal side of things, where it's about building up layers and manipulating textures and things like that. But you could also say that this is an earlier form of ISIS, and they're still pulling off something that you don't really associate the band with extremely, extremely well, especially on track 1 and also this track 3. So I don't really have any problems with it so far. It's not better or worse. It's just different, to be honest. But, I might speak too soon because we're going to get into the next track, which is called Carry. We've had quite a few longer tracks so far, so I think we're overdue for maybe one in the 5-4 minute range. Something like that at some point. So this could be the one. Let's see if it's the one. This is track 4, Carry. 6 minutes 40, yeah. Fair. Okay, more synthy texture here. Almost earth-like or sleep-like. Got a hi-hat pulse. Very atmospheric so far. Moody, almost ambient. Like dark ambient. Okay. Interesting beat. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Creates a sort of lurching, stumbling feel, which is interesting. This is much more post-rock, post-metal. That guitar is like pure, like God speaking like Emperor or something. Ooh, liquid bass. Okay. Cleaned itself up. Nice guitar. I like the sustain on that. amelodic, atonal, but it works. This feels sort of much more like epic and loose and freeform than the previous two. He always seems to move to hi-hat when there's a build-up happening. Yeah! Predicted it, I called it. Is it possible to make out what he's saying? Because I cannot make out what he's saying. Oh, we've got harmonized screaming in the background now. Okay. Oh, that's very punchy. I love that riff. Best riff in the song. Much punchier. Get the strumming pattern right. Yeah. Close enough. Alright, go down. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mind that at all. It's very similar thoughts to that that I had on track 3. Yeah, track 3. It is track 4, isn't it? Yeah, Carry Then False Light. Very, very similar thoughts compared to False Light. I thought Carry was the most atmospheric track we've had so far on the album, especially obviously in the first 3 minutes. Like at the end, it sort of did the ISIS thing with their heavy crushing guitars and, a drummer that sounds like he's, pounding the drums as hard as he can. But at the beginning we had something different there, and I appreciated that. We had atmospheric guitars, we sort of had light synth textures going on, some light sort of buzzy effects on some of the things there. Of course, everything was heavily distorted, that made up the wall of sound in the background, but I don't know, I appreciated that it was actually going for a wall of sound. That's something I associate more with later ISIS, and something that we haven't really had to the same degree on this album so far. I almost wish it sort of did that bit longer. I think it could have capitalized on the uniqueness of that sound for the, especially on this album, because, this album's much more immediate and direct. I think it could have, maybe had that drawn out a little bit longer before the inevitable, huge breakdown and climax at the end there. But, be thankful for what happened while it happened, and I was thankful for that while it happened. So that was a really nice section. Then it sort of built up in classic ISIS fashion, fashion. Layers added one by one into the mix. You got the drums, first sort of adopting this really faltering, almost uneasy sounding beat, but slowly gaining a bit more propulsion as the track went on. You had some sort of clean guitar lines, panned hard in the right and left channels. It was obvious that it was building up to something. Then, of course, the huge climax happened. The vocals came in, screaming and shouting and growling, which, in my opinion, so far on this album, I think the vocals might be a touch overused. I don't think we need to hear them as much, because, they were such a tiny part of Panopticon on the whole, that I think for me it's a bit jarring to hear them, be such an important part of this album. And maybe that's something I'll get used to the more I listen to this album, but so far that's just something I would have liked a bit less of. Because, I think that's just a me problem. Metal vocals, for the most part, I've never really loved, especially atonal sort of like screeches or growls like that. For some reason, I've never just been able to 100%, go with them and think that I've never been able to 100% be sold on their inclusion on any given track. Granted, the vocals on this are much less offensive than, say, a Vector, which I've listened to on this channel before. But, yeah, I don't know. I think some of these tracks don't entirely need vocals. I think they work in some places, like on track 1, parts of track 3, but elsewhere not as much. But, whatever. Nothing really huge to write home about in the riffing in that track. There was one moment towards the end where it just broke down to just the drums with the open hi-hats and this quite clean guitar chordal stuff happening in the left channel, which that was a pretty cool moment. It was pretty exhilarating. That was the best moment from a riff point of view, I'd say, in the track. The other riffs were a bit more, not as distinctive, I'd say, as that one. So, the riffing was neither here nor there. It wasn't bad by any means. It was good. It was solid. It just wasn't mind-blowing or anything. And, I don't know, I think that about covers that track. I think going forward on this album, I'd like to see maybe a bit more of a difference between tracks, because there are little differences. There are subtle differences, but I think they all tend to end up in the same place at the end there, which is that huge, oh my god, look how heavy this is climax. And that's good, but I'd like to see moments, there are moments on Panopticon where at the end there you think the track's building to this thing, but then it just comes down slowly again. And that's really unique, and that's really cool. I love, when it does that. I'd like to see more unique structures on this album, on these songs, at least in particular. I don't know. I think without that sort of experimentation, I think the last two songs in particular are quite similar, in my opinion, except for the beginning, but especially where they end up at the end, very, very, very similar, and sort of hard to distinguish them from each other at points. So going forward, I would like a little bit more uniqueness between tracks, if I can get it. I know that's a big ask in metal, because metal is not a genre that's prized for having, really different tracks across an album. Like, if you want that, you go to a pop, or you go to rock or electronic or something like that. But, fingers crossed, maybe they might surprise me. Maybe they might surprise me, in fact, with track 5, which is called Untitled. Now, this one I can see because it started. It's 2 minutes long, so this is a little Untitled interlude. I hope it just does its thing. It looks like it's transitioning between the two halves of the album. So, gonna let this ferryman take me across. Let's go. This is Untitled. Boom. Oh geez, unnerving. Is that whale song? Definitely whale song, I think. Oh wait. Oh, it's called Oceanic. I get it. Very funny. Very funny, Isis. You did a funny. I get it. Okay. I haven't heard much ocean. I haven't even thought about the title so far, but I haven't heard many ocean themes until this track. Maybe if I looked up the lyrics, that'd, show up a bit more. Not that I'm a big lyrics guy. I'm just going to shut up. I'm sorry, I'm going to let this track play out. I have too many thoughts. Is that radio broadcasts or something? Someone crunching in gravel on the right there. There's the water, telltale sign. Gonna stop it there. Okay, that was Untitled. That was like nothing else I've heard on any ISIS album. I mean, that's sort of this thing I'd expect to hear on a Swans album, or on a Godspeed album, or like a Set Fire Flames album, but definitely not on an ISIS album. Oops, that moved. Yeah, no, I actually appreciated that for how unique it was. And a nice little, I'd say, palate cleanser between two halves of the album. And, I think it resets the album in a sense, and like helps, reacclimatize your ears to softer sounds before it goes into like crushing and punchy things, which it has been doing in the first 4 tracks. Yeah, I mean, that sounded pretty good. Expert, integration of found sounds and radio sounds, field recordings, obviously whale song by the sounds of it, which is pretty cool. I like all that. And, I mean, what else to say about that? I think that was a welcome inclusion on the album. I probably needed that little break before I got into sort of the giant headbanging things in the second half. So, yeah, not a bad word to say about that. We're going on to another track, which is very fitting with the nautical theme as of late. It's called Maritime. Don't know how long it is, but yeah, it'd be interesting if it continues some of the same sounds that was on that Untitled interlude. I hope it does. I think that sort of sound collage it built up there is too good to waste. So fingers crossed. Let's see. This is track 6, Maritime. Ba-bam. And it does. Oh, this is only 3 minutes long. Okay. This is another little interlude. Didn't expect that. Whoa. Electronic drums I hear on an ISIS song, let alone album. I'll take things I did not expect to hear during this video for 500 Alex. What the fuck? I expected to hear on this. that's like a modal. That's very modal, that melody, whatever that is. I love it. Oh my god. Very dramatic, that. Huh. Yeah, that was like the equivalent of that would be that moment on 10,000 Days by Tool where the like the electronic drums kick in and the skittering sound effects kick in on the song Intention. Just this moment where you expect the same sort of thing, you know, same old, and then they just hit you out of the ballpark with something completely different. Like, completely different. I wouldn't even know what genre to call that. Would you call that, like, trip-hop? Would you call that alternative rock? I don't even know what. I honestly don't. Down-tempo? I have no idea what you'd call that. But the upshot was, that was electronic drums. That was a drum machine and what sounded like a sequencer on an ISIS album, which is something that I thought I'd never hear in my life. God damn. And you know what? I actually kind of appreciate the fact that, like, it wasn't emulating an acoustic drum kit at all. Like, you could tell that it was fake. I don't think they made any indication that that was meant to be a real drum kit or something. You know, they weren't hiding it. That was very clearly fake, very clearly artificial. And I sort of appreciated that. That was really refreshing track. I mean, pretty apt that the album, or this part of the album, seems to be about like water and the ocean so far, because that felt like diving into the ocean after a scorching hot day. That was pretty much the first half of this album. And you know what, I'll even forgive it for not having the best chord sequence in the world, especially at the beginning, but you know, it was fine, and plus I was too entranced by the electronic drums to really make anything criticism wise against it. Maybe on re-listen, when I know what's coming, it could be one of those songs where the effect dies down a little bit for me. So that's a possibility. The only other criticism I'd have is actually not to do with the track itself, but where it's placed on the album. I think we could have had that, possibly maybe track 2 or 3, because I think you needed something like that to possibly break up the very homogenous styles, roughly speaking, but by and large homogenous styles of the first 4 tracks. I think that actually could have served really well. Maybe what's a good place it could have been? Probably between The Other and False Light, I think, as a little palette cleanser. But I think it dulls the effect of it just a touch coming after Untitled, because Untitled is already a palette cleanser, so you sort of have 2 palette cleansers back to back, which I think, diminishes the effect of both of them. So if I was structuring this album, I'd put that track a bit earlier. But that's where complaints start and end. I really like I forgot to mention, the sort of literally watery synth sound in the right channel, which, again, very deliberate choice, I'm sure. First time I'm really feeling this and Untitled, first times I'm really hearing the nautical theme on this album in full force. So, I mean, what to say about that? Totally unexpected. Pretty cool. I just wish it was elsewhere on the album, though. Anyway, so we're into the last 3 tracks now, but they are long tracks. Like, this one, I can tell, is 10 minutes 45 long, guys. 10 minutes 45, because it accidentally started before I got the chance to pause Untitled. It's called Wait. My God. Who knows? I'm guessing this will be more in the, atmospheric sludge vein of things than the Maritime sort of trip-hop side of things. And I don't know, I'm just hoping for, a really good build-ups, really good riffs, really good climaxes. That long length lends itself more to a panopticon style, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get more atmosphere and texture and slow builds on this track compared to the other tracks. So Let's see if my hypotheses come true. This is track 7, Wait. Yep, goodbye. Goodbye, trip hop. That's a very delicate, plaintive guitar line there. Okay. Drum fading by the sound of it. Ooh. Keyboard. Sounds like it's major key so far, which for this album is definitely new. So it's less uneasy so far, but we're getting some noise. Starting already, boys. I was right about the slow linear builds. We're getting more of them here. In the first, well, how long's passed? First 2 minutes anyway. My prediction though is that there's going to be a moment when the drums come fully to the forefront. There'll be like a moment when all the guitars come crashing down at once. And there won't be much warning. I'll put $200 on that. Very slow build, but we're getting a sort of groovy and funky start drum wise. Okay, here we go. It's coming, lads. Very light guitars. The drums are the focus so far. Female vocals? Oh. If her melody's what I think it is, then I love it. I just can't hear it well enough. Oh, amazing vocal melody. That na-na, fantastic. Wow, okay, I'm going to pause it actually. What an inspired choice on the track, female vocals. And it sounds like a female vocal sample or something that's just repeated over and over. I would have never thought of that, but that really works for some reason over the beats and the guitars. That, quite sort of forceful and purposeful, but still slightly delicate female vocal. I think that is really great so far, and the vocal melody is spot on. Like the na-na, brilliant. That in particular. Oh, it's gone. Come on, bring it back. We got some sick bass though in its place. The drums are building. Oh, okay. Yeah, this track is hitting all the right notes so far. So good, man. So good. Ooh, did not expect that. Thought it'd just keep going. Drums are punchy on this, my god. Fantastic. I know good music when I hear it. That's good music. Oh yeah, nice guitar part. That works well harmonic with the na 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 na. Effective. Some really pleasing melodic choices on this track. Subtle, but pleasing. Great riff. They're nailing these riffs. Okay. Kept it simple now. We're driving somewhere. We're moving. We're going places. We're going places. Back? Oh, it sounded like she was back, but she ain't back. Yeah, there she is! There she is! Oh my god. Oh, fantastic. Why isn't she the ISIS vocalist? ending on a major chord too. To learn to pause it in time. Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, that was a glimpse of track. What was that? Track 8 for you. If I'm sinking, looks like it's going to be a heavy one. So Wait, top 3 song of theirs. Easily top 3 song of theirs. I'd say the top 3 goes, from what I've heard, In Fiction, That. I think In Fiction tops it, but just like, In Fiction, That, and probably the beginning and the end so far, or So Did We. One of those two jostles for third place. That was beyond amazing. Absolutely beyond amazing. Oh my god, if I could talk about all the little moments in that I love, I'd literally be here all day. So, first of all, my predictions were spot on with that one. I predicted that it was going to have more of a linear build, and it did. That was much more in the line of a Panopticon track or something. In fact, that could have been, I think, except for the production style, it doesn't have as much reverb as a Panopticon track, but I think that could have been put on Panopticon. I would not have batted an eye. That's exactly in that vein, and much less in the sort of metal and hardcore influence stuff that we've heard in the first half of the album. That was world building, world expanding, world crushing, destructive, angelic, gorgeous, 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 through and through. I think that has the best drums on the album. Maybe tied actually with the beginning and the end, but that has some of the best drums on the album. The drums are played on that with such a purpose. Like every note is so purposeful and drives the song forward so well. Perfect anchor for that song. Guitars change up a lot, but every single change is phenomenal. I don't think there's a single thing from a melodic or harmonic point of view on that doesn't work for me at all. I think all of that was perfect. Like, from that point of view, if that's what we're talking, all of that was perfect. Yeah, the linear build, brilliant. I like the intro, how it was just these sort of Marshall sounding drums. Like, I don't think there were any hi-hats in that. It was just these Marshall type drums repeated over and over the same pattern for about 2 minutes or 3 minutes while there was a fade in. Fantastic intro, really set the scene. Really repetitive too, which I love repetition. Yeah, no, I couldn't ask for anything more from that intro either. Oh my god. And I've tried to avoid talking about that female vocal melody this whole time, because I want to save that, but I cannot help myself. That female vocal melody is, obviously by far leagues and bounds ahead of any single application of vocals on any ISIS track I've heard. That melody that she had, the da 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 da, that da da, one of the best things I think I've ever heard. That was just impeccable and creative use on that song too. Like, they could have easily just over it, like the guy's been doing on the first 4 tracks. But no, they bring in this female vocalist, and she has a beautiful angelic voice that still projects pretty well. Like, it still projects, but they get her to sing this really delicate vocal melody that is so gorgeous and nothing like what I would expect to hear on that song, and certainly nothing like what I would, put on that song. If I was in the band, I would not have picked that as an inclusion on the song. I would not have said it worked. But it works so well. The clean, light, and beautiful nature of her voice. It's like a bell. It's as clear as a bell, and it's like a bell that rings clear and true over the muddiness and the darkness of the rest of the track. What an inspired inclusion. It's probably my single favourite part on any ISIS song I think I've heard, that vocal melody. Single favourite, this is counting any drum part, any guitar part, any bass part, and I know it's like comparing apples and oranges, but pretty confidently, that's my single favourite element on any ISIS song ever. Literally my only complaint is that that vocal melody should have been across the whole song and not just a tantalizing 2 minutes. Yeah, what an impeccable use of their skills as musicians. Absolutely impeccable use. They know what they're good at sometimes, but I don't think they express, especially on this album, I think, maybe not so much on Panopticon, because Panopticon's a pretty great album, but on this album, I think they don't really know their strengths as much, and they don't lean into their strengths as much as I'd like them to. But on this track right here, they know their strengths, they lean into them, and they produce something phenomenal. Oh man, I'm speechless after that. The rest of the album can't top that. Like, it'd need to be Jesus music to, manage to top that. I mean, I don't think the next track is going to top that, judging by the beginning. It'd need to be, phenomenal to be able to top that. And, I mean, I couldn't do that. Any other band, pretty much, I don't think couldn't do that. But, they're going to give it a shot. They're going to give it a shot with track 8, which is called From Sinking. So we're going back to a nautical theme here. First time in one track that we're back to a nautical theme. From the beginning, it looks like this is 8 minutes long, so another pretty long track. And doesn't sound like it's going to have much of a linear build like the previous track did. Let's see if they integrate these maritime nautical themes. Let's see if the title was just for show. Let's see if it's another badass track. Hopefully. This is track 8. Vocalist back. They don't need this guy with his radio-treated megaphone vocals. Get out of here. There's something weird happening there, time signature-wise. So we're bar 2/4. Whoa. Yeah. So that's weird. That always throws me off that little bit. See, I'm megaphone guy. Not totally sold on this so far for some reason. I'm not a huge fan of the riff. Doesn't have enough of its own identity, I think, for me. doing anything like wrong. Good chance to practice my 16th note triplets though, so. Actually, no, that'd be 30-second notes. 1, 2, that'd be 16th note triplets. Yeah, that's 30-second note triplets. Music classes with SMAM, guys. This is what you come here for. You don't come for me to react to this. You come for random music classes. That's alright. Quite an optimistic little riff there. A little bit bittersweet, but quite dry. Oh, I didn't expect that. Oh, that's not a metal progression at all. That could be like on some indie song. I like it. Just with the subtle pulse in the right channel, I don't mind that at all. What's up with the detta, detta? See, I think that's overcomplicating the drum pattern just a touch, in my view. No snare, alright, tension building up. There you go. Oh, weird chord change. Now there's a weird chord change. That's more metal. Oh, that's weird. Very unlike Isis, that drop bit. And we end in a second. Yep, alright. Yeah, I wasn't entirely sold on that. Just to be 100% frank, I wasn't entirely sold on that. There were parts I liked. There was one part I liked. I think it was about, with 3 minutes to go or so, when we got into this, quite sort of anthemic chord sequence, which was played out mostly in the right channel, that, as I sort of commented on, sounded very almost like indie or something. I thought that was a neat little inclusion, but it didn't last for long. But while it lasted, I think the drum use was quite light and subtle, and the guitars were fine, and the effects on the guitars are good. But I don't know. Other than that, I felt like that track is possibly my least favourite, or maybe second least favourite. I don't know if that or the other takes out that title for me. But the reason it was one of my least favourites is because it just didn't do enough, I think, to really set itself apart from any other song on this album or any other song that Isis has done. I think that was just felt like a fairly generic, heavy, aggressive, climactic Isis banger. And to be honest, at this point in the album, I sort of want something a bit different from that. Or at least something that, more successfully builds up tension or something, instead of just having it like total release pretty much for the entire track. And there was only really an attempt at creating this huge tension and huge release with the drum part at the end there. So, I don't know, I think I'm just more of a fan of the sort of Isis tracks that are like Wait, where it's, slowly building up to something and layers are added and added. I think that's more my vibe than something like that that's just constant heaviness, pretty much the whole time. But even beyond that, like, there's some tracks on this that are pretty heavy throughout. Like, look at False Light, say, or Carry. They're pretty heavy throughout, but I still like them a lot. And I think that's because they have better riffs. But I wasn't a big fan of the riffs on that. They were just so nondescript. I don't know, they were fairly bland, to be honest. Especially compared to, the predecessor and a lot of the songs on the first half of the album. They were just bland. Like, they weren't atonal or anything. They worked melodically. They were fine like that. But I don't know, I couldn't hum you a single riff on pretty much the entirety of that track, if you ask me to. So, by that, I just think that wasn't their best work. Also, I wasn't a big fan of the drum part in parts too. I think, especially towards the end there, the drummer seemed to go a little bit too feel crazy and a bit too complex on the cymbals for my liking, which busied things up a bit too much. I prefer when the drummer on this is much more restrained and repetitive. So, that I wasn't big on. I also wasn't huge on the time signature changes at the beginning there. I think, it was hard to sort of wrap my head around them. Maybe that's another thing of like, I need to listen to it more before I can wrap my head around it. But I don't know, at first listen, that didn't really strike me as particularly catchy, those time signature changes. So not huge on that, not huge on most of the drumming, not huge on most of the sections and just the way that was structured. I think that could possibly be my least favourite Isis track, I'd say, so far that I've heard. Like, at least I'd say the other is doing something very different to what I normally hear them do. Like, that's doing some pretty straight ahead metal tropes all across that track. And at least you can sort of respect it for that, even if it is quite atonal and dirty and hard to listen to. That just felt kind of generic and inoffensive, to be honest. And I think that is a worse crime. It's a worse crime to be generic and inoffensive than to at least try for something and it not really working. I would much rather, a band or a song try to do something different and fail at that. I mean, look at, Sweet Trip, for example, their album Velocity Design Comfort. I don't really like the experimentation on that album, but at least it is experimentation. Like, it's really aggressively experimental and aggressively tries at things I've never heard in music before and probably will never again. And, for that, I respect it. And, maybe one day there's an opportunity for that to click for me. But for that track, I don't think there'll be much clicking done. I don't know. Wasn't huge on that. So what am I looking for going into the last track? I'm looking for a really world-ending climactic end to the album, which I think it deserves. I'm looking for some good riffs, some interesting things going on in the riffs. So some like catchy parts, some catchy melodies, some good bass work, and some drumming that keeps it simple. Also, better use of dynamics than was on that track. If I get like most of those things, perfect end to the album. Couldn't want any more. So let's hope this last track, track 9, which is called Hym, Hym, him, I would just say him. Let's hope that in all 9 minutes of its glory nails it for me. Fingers crossed. Let's go. This is last track on ISIS's album Oceanic, Him, Baban. They like their 5/4 on this album. I keep thinking it's in 6/4. I always mess it up. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this has promise. Interesting choice to just launch into it for the final track on the album, but it has promise. I'll see where it goes. Okay. Oh yeah, I like those like seagull guitars in the background. Reminds me of Echoes by Pink Floyd. Yeah, very noisy guitars here. Effects heavy. Yeah, melodic vocals too, I'll take that. Better than the growling and the boring, I'll take that. Okay, we're going places. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, that's a sick riff. That's a really sick riff. Not at all ISIS either. Very sick riff. Fast for them. Yeah, this is more like a better riffs compared to the last guy. Oceanic layouts, that's good. Very technical riffs from this band. Okay. be hard to do fills in 5/4 like that. He's so easy to lose if he goes to a 6/4. Oh, it's an actual proper drum solo. That's interesting. I don't mind that inclusion actually. Like a proper drum solo. That's kind of neat. It just didn't really click to me, so I was just vamping that riff over and over. Really clever how they're integrating that 5/4. Okay. 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 And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Oceanic by Isis. In terms of that last track, I think it was really good, really decent. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because, it was nothing particularly out of the ordinary with a lot of Isis tracks, but no, that was really decent. There was one moment there that I liked where it went into this hyper-technical sort of like triplet riffing for a while, which I thought was a really neat inclusion. I think it also went for the perfect amount of time. If that continued throughout the entire track, might have ended up being a bit dull, but no, that was a really neat moment where it totally dropped into that feel. I liked that a lot. Liked the majority of that track a lot. The riffs were more memorable. I liked how it played around with that 5/4 feel for the whole time. Really sort of tight playing too by the whole band, considering that 5/4 is a tough time signature to work around, talking from experience. So, yeah, no, really good chops from the band members to be able to pull that off for such an extended period of time. And, God, what else? The drum solo moment was cool. I actually liked that the drummer got sort of a showcase like that, that wasn't, in, like, the middle of an other important part of the song. Like, I liked that, because some of the moments on, say, the track before that one, where the drummer just started doing these, like, quite excessive drum fills, in my opinion, during the song proper, I thought that's unnecessary, but the drummer actually got, like, just some moments there where, the riffs and the bass were just vamped over and over so he could, solo his little hideout, and solo it he did. He really nailed that little solo there. So I liked that a lot. I don't know, yeah, riffs were good, production was chunky, everything was really nice. I didn't mind that at all. I mean, is it like the ideal closer to the album? I'd say it's fine. It's definitely not. They could have picked so many other worse choices for closers on that. So I thought that worked fine as a closer. However, a song like Wait, right, is just built for closer status. Like, just as the beginning and the end is built for opener status, I'd say Wait is just designed to be a closer. And honestly, I wouldn't have minded if him and Wait swapped places on the track list. I think they could have done that and it could have worked. But I'm not complaining, or him, worked fine as a track list, just not as next level as Wait would have been to end off the album. But, what can you do? And in terms of that album as a whole, I liked it. I think it had problems. I think it definitely had problems. There were some things on it I didn't care for as much, but on the whole, I still liked it. I'd still say it was about a 7 out of 10 album. Not nearly as good as Panopticon. Even though the highs of that album, I'd say almost exceed Panopticon. There are just too many, lows, I think, to really, really, reach the level that Panopticon reaches pretty consistently across the entire track list. Two songs stick out in particular, and this is my clear top 2 on the album. Beginning and the End, obviously, and Wait, obviously. Those two, I'd say Wait is, over time, I'd say that might raise to be my favourite ISIS song. Beginning and the End is not far behind. Those two songs are sublime, and they stick out easily as the best on this album. They are clearly the highest highs on the album. I mean, the Beginning and the End with its sort of infectious groove metal style, mixed with, the classic ISIS tropes that you hear on Panopticon. And then Wait, which is just this slow burn linear build with one of the best vocal melodies I've heard as of late on any song, let alone an ISIS song, which is something I didn't expect to be saying. Those two, just totally sublime, and I don't think it'd be hard for this band to top those on the albums I haven't heard yet. But then I think the lows were lower. I think From Sinking was just a little bit dry, dull, and monotonous. And the other was attempting something interesting. I'll give it that. It was attempting something interesting. I just think it could have done it better. There's a reason this band isn't a post-hardcore band. Or, an early sort of new wave British heavy metal band. They're atmospheric sludge band. They do a certain style of music best, in my opinion. And I think the best moments, for the most part, with exceptions, are when they stick to that style, or at least the most consistent moments. But yeah, I think a lot of the things, apart from those two tracks, lie somewhere in between. They're all in the decent range. So I think False Light and Cut Carry are really decent tracks, both of them. Maritime is a really neat little moment on the album that I did not expect. A really nice palate cleanser too. You don't expect to hear that on the album at all, and it's sort of a little moment of trip-hop levity before you get into the heaviness and the crushing last 3 tracks. So I really appreciate what that does on the album, even if I think it could be in a different spot. And that leads to one of my other main criticisms of the album, I think, is the sequencing is a bit off. And I don't normally have problems with sequencing on albums, but I think the sequencing on that could be better. Beginning and the End, really good opener. No other track would be as good as that as an opener, except for Wait maybe, but Wait is Wait, it's incredible. And him decent closer. However, if I was to structure this album, put Wait as the closer, put him as track 7, put Maritime in between the other and False Light, and I think that makes much more sense as an album, because then you have the two palette cleansers evenly dispersed throughout the album. You have, a song which is just made to be the apex of their career at the end, where it should be. And I think just a little tweak like that could have made this album that much better. But yeah, on the whole, no, I respected the fact that on some of those tracks, this band was trying something different. They were going for a more punchy and angular style than they had on Panopticon, which is much looser and airier in sound. And funnily enough, I'd say, the titles of this album and Panopticon should be switched for the most part. This album sounds much more earthy and punchy, which in a very, human concept like the title Panopticon would imply. And Panopticon sounds more airy, even watery, dare I say. And I think Oceanic would have been better for that. It sounds much more natural and organic, that album. But yeah, no, on the whole, I guess I respect that at this point in their career, they were doing different things. They were more angular and more precise in sound. And while I don't think they do that as well as they do the atmospheric sludge sort of sound, I still respect them for trying. And I think in a lot of places, it does pay off to a significant margin. I mean, the best example is the beginning and the end. But, here and there, it's pretty decent elsewhere. And on the whole, I really enjoyed that. I didn't love it like I love Panopticon. I love some of the individual tracks, I think, is the thing to take away from that. Wait and beginning and the end. You are incredible. Have my babies. And on the whole, I think that does it, guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the bell, all that good stuff. Leave a comment if you want to comment on your experience with this album, whether you love it or you hate it. If you want to comment on how bad my opinions are, feel free to do it. If you have any feedback for this channel or recommendations for albums that you'd like me to listen to, now that I am actually reacting to recommendations, hit me up in the comments. I will read and respond to pretty much all of them. So I think that about does it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, etc. Have a good day. Isis Oceanic forever. I will see you in the next video.